Yo, what's up guys, it's Tat, and welcome on into 𝗕𝗏𝗍𝗆 Hot Takes. This is where I ask you, my community, to give you your hot takes about 𝗕𝗏𝗍𝗆. I don't know, it seems like a pretty self-explanatory title. Whoa, before this video starts guys, let me go ahead and direct you into the link in description below to check out my tat shop. It's one of my hat designs. I've been wearing this for over a year now, and it's found a pretty comfortable place on the top of my head. I sell all kinds of stuff from mouse pads to stickers and even hoodies like this one, which my girlfriend has stolen and pretty much wears 24/7. So if you want to support the channel and help me pay my bills, go ahead and check out the tat shop. The devs are actually doing a good job. Yeah, I think I can agree with this. I think people who would disagree with this are just kind of not liking the game, but I would generally say that the developers are doing a pretty decent job at balancing the game and rolling out new content. Haste and hindered not stacking was the way to go, and not having it move forward is going to hurt the game in the long run. I also actually completely agree with this. The thing is though, it wasn't implemented very well. Like, you need to have all the other haste and hinder perks buffed like all at once or like reasonably close together, because what they did on the PTB kind of sucked. Like, there was like maybe 4 or 5 buffs to perks, and then the rest of the perks in the game were just ignored. And that's not even like including add-ons. Like, there's a number of add-ons that increase movement speed when you're like holding a Huntress Hatchet, or like a Legion's BFF's add-on. So they need to go through and like retroactively like change everything if they're going to ever like cap haste and hindered. But I do think that they actually should cap haste and hindered, or like make them not stack. It would be definitely better for balance. Old Dead Hard could be brought back with the hook requirement and maybe a block to vaulting and dropping pallets for 2 seconds after using it, like Doctor's Power. I think I can actually kind of agree with this one. E for distance, if it was like once per trial, would probably be fine. Like, if it was like once per trial and just doesn't work in endgame, I think it would be fine. Maybe if it also had the condition of requiring to be hooked. The problem with Old Dead Hard is it took literally 0 skill or risk to use. Like, you could just press E in your first chase, and then suddenly you looped the killer for 4 gens. Like, it was genuinely that big of a deal. So if you haven't played the game for that long, you might be wondering what we're talking about, but they changed Dead Hard so that it no longer gives you distance and just gives you endurance instead. So they kind of reworked the perk a bit. I do think that Old Dead Hard was actually more fun to use, but it was horrible to play against. There is no such thing as a bad perk. Sure, some might be weaker, but they still have value. Even sometimes as basic as Spine Shell is good for new players. That is the purpose it serves, and it does its job. Different perks for different types of players and playstyles, no matter how niche. I kind of agree on this. Like, yeah, like, I don't think every single perk should be anti-tunnel or gen regression or chase space. Like, it's fine to have stuff that like works for chests, but like a perk like Premonition or like Shattered Hope, like there's no defending those. Those are just terrible perks. Like, they definitely need buffs or reworks to make them like worth using. Like, there's really no like reason to use Premonition when you could use half a dozen other perks to tell you the exact same thing but have less conditions on them. So that's how I would approach that. I really don't think this community is as uniquely toxic as people say. I don't even have to read the rest of this. This is absolutely true. I think the 𝗕𝗏𝗍𝗆 community is just extremely sensitive. I know that's like kind of like, oh my god, I can't believe you said that in 2025. No, but like literally, like, I've played games in all kinds of other communities, and like, but like literally like a few years ago, like an Asian streamer got bullied by white people on Twitter because she called the Onryo Oreo, and white people were offended on her behalf. What's the problem? Like, oh my god, this fucking people are dumb. That's I think the problem with the DBD community is not toxicity, it's just being absolutely fucking dumb. That's really the issue with it. There should be a normal mode, the event mode, and a ranked mode with an actual MMR and ranking system, because what we have right now has nothing to do with how good you are, and the real MMR is hidden from all players. The game has grown a lot over the years, and I think it should be implemented. It would be better for the player base overall. I actually disagree, because every time they split queues, it feels fucking horrible, man. 2v8, when 2v8 comes out, oh my goodness. So imagine you have 1v4, you have 2v8, and then you have this ranked mode. Dude, that's going to be horrible. And then, of course, all the sweats that would play ranked, they're going to be playing against other sweats in ranked, and they're not going to want to do that. They want to stomp and win every game. So they're just going to go back to 1v4. It's not going to really solve anything. I do agree that MMR should be reworked and like the ranking system should be like adjusted. I think Behavior has said that they plan on like reworking it so that it's not based solely on kills and escapes, but like maybe the number of hooks you have, the number of pallet stuns, etc. But yeah, I think splitting queues would be a horrible idea. The Ghoul has an undeserved hate that only comes from people that don't or can't play against the killer, which requires specific counterplay. Skill issue. I kind of agree. Now that the Ghoul has been nerfed pretty heavily since his release, I don't really have a problem with him. Like the issue I had with the Ghoul was literally his aim assist and like auto aim. That has been patched. Like he used to be able to hit you through walls. He can't do that anymore. So I don't really have a problem with it. Like he has to physically close a distance to connect up close with you to get the hit. So that's been fixed. And they even went further and they changed some of his really strong add-ons. Reworked one of them, I believe, from being a cooldown add-on to instead being like a move speed add-on or something. So yeah, I don't really have an issue with Ghoul. I think the people who still hate on Ghoul and want him to be nerfed, they just want to win every game. That's really all it is. Skull Merchant should be reverted. And Survivor Gem perks should have been nerfed alongside Killer Gem perks. Okay, so let's tackle the Gem perk stuff because I think that's easier. And that is flat yes. They definitely should have done both Generator Repair and slowdown perks all at once, because like only buffing one and or nerfing the other doesn't work so well, because it's a competitive asim. Like you're gonna have people that are gonna abuse that. So yeah, definitely they should have done all of the stuff at once, sort of like with haste and hindered that I touched on earlier. And yeah, Skull Merchant, if we're talking about pre-nerf, I agree. If we're talking about 1.0, absolutely fucking not. At 1.0, Skull Merchant was a very poorly designed killer. She had nothing in chase. She was literally just exposed and detection. That was it. That's all she had. And so the best way you would play her was to hold a 3-gen. So they fixed the 3-gen and they gave her like a chase power, but her chase power, I agree, is kind of shit. But at least like you could kind of use it as like a trap player, like a trap killer, like Hag or Trapper. So yeah, if we're talking about the double scan line merchant, I agree. If we're talking about the old exposed knows where you are at all times on the gen merchant, yeah, that's a flat no for me. In order for Legion to be competitive and well balanced, he should know he needs his ult implementation of interaction with Deep Wound in his power, being able to deplete Deep Wound with the subsequent hits, but this time without the exploits like moonwalking. I completely agree. I think a lot of people are just like, they're patently against this idea, or like they think it's absurd, but I genuinely think like there's nothing wrong with it. Like the killer hit you, like yeah, that should do something. I don't think it should be as strong as it used to be, and there definitely shouldn't be add-ons that like deplete Deep Wound faster, but he definitely needs like at the very least, like if Killer Instinct is active, hitting someone who has Deep Wound should take a chunk out of it, but not enough to down them. So this guy goes on to say, yeah, that like you should be able to like go back to someone who hasn't mended in a while to like hit them and potentially down them. I think that's fine. I don't think there's really anything wrong with that, so I completely agree here. In light of recent conversations, I think characters like Darth Vader, what is going on DBD space? I'm sorry, I live under a rock. Characters like Darth Vader fit in Dead by Daylight, and it's up to the developers to decide if they want this to be a strictly horror game or to allow more horror adjacent picks. I'm just gonna echo what I've said for like the longest time. I don't give a fuck what character I play. They could add Super Mario into Dead by Daylight and I wouldn't care. Okay, like genuinely, I don't care. The gameplay is you run around a block of wood. I think people need to stop taking the game so seriously and maybe consider touching some grass for once in their life. Pallet should take less time to break but stun the killer for longer to disincentivize pre-dropping, and there should be a more competitive queue that gives more blood points to keep Swifts and sweaty killers out of normal matching. Okay, yeah, so again with the split queue thing, sweaty players, it doesn't work in every game. There's a ranked mode, it doesn't work. People always smurf or just go in the other queue and just ruin lobbies. It doesn't work. I do agree that pallets should definitely be broken a little bit faster. Like basically like tier 1 brutal strength I think should be made base kit again. Just make it like a flat 2 seconds to break. I mean, it really wouldn't affect high-end killers too much. It would just be a nice buff to like M1 Andes, like Wraith and Legion as an example. I'm not sure if they should take longer to stun, but maybe they could like potentially make any means necessary like base kit. Maybe, I don't know, maybe that's too much, but just an idea to toss into the ring. The old tome system was infinitely better, and the removal of the lore memories was such an unnecessary and dumb change to the point where it was the lore department's equivalent of the rework that gave 𝗕𝗹𝘂𝗲𝗍𝗏. Why in the world would they stop doing lore for tomes, the literal update before the FNAF chapter, whose community loves lore in their games? I agree that removing lore was dumb. I don't know why they did that. They buried it in like this in the tome or like the quest menu. Like you have to go to the very bottom of the screen. There's a small button to like go read all the lore and get all the old tome challenges. But the actual like challenges themselves, the new system's way better, especially from like a casual player's perspective. Like, I don't know about you guys, but I do not play DBD for like 8 hours a day. Like I log on, I play it for stream, and then I turn it off, and like that's it. Like I'm not playing the game for hours and hours. So to be able to hop on, just like, you know, grind out like 4 or 5 quests without even looking at what they are and just make progress in the Rift, that's huge. That's genuinely huge. It's really casual friendly. I think the old system was really unfriendly and just was super clunky to use as well. Like you pick one challenge at a time. That sucks. That sucks. I do think they should rename the quest system to rituals, because I think that's more thematic for the game, but that's pretty much my 2 cents on that. Using Franklin's No One Escapes Death, or NOED, and Lightborn all in the same build isn't toxic. I don't think anyone legitimately thinks it's toxic. Maybe unless like you're like really smooth brain. Okay, here's the thing. Using perks in the game the developers intended you to use is not toxic. There's nothing toxic about that. It might be a buzzword for like a YouTube title. Okay, we've all done that. But it's not toxic. It's just not. Like it's the same thing like doing gens or like tunneling or camping. Like it's not toxic. It's just a thing in the game that you can do. I think what is toxic is, you know, going out of your way to like call someone a slur or some shit because you lost in the game. That is toxic. Any killer with a blink, dash, or movement speed ability that allows them to traverse a third of the map in seconds should be 4.4 meter per second speed. The ones that primarily come to mind are Blight and 𝗥𝗏𝗂𝗏. I'm willing to let Wesker slide because he primarily uses his dash and chase. I completely agree. Why does 𝗥𝗏𝗂𝗏 and Blight get to just immediately zoom to? I think 𝗥𝗏𝗂𝗏 I'm willing to kind of let go because he can't like directly down you with his power. Like he has to cancel his ability and catch up with 4.6 speed. But Blight, oh, 100%. There's zero reason why Blight should be 4.6. Blight 1,000,000% should be 4.4. He doesn't need to be 4.6. Hell, even Spirit, who's slower than Blight and has a power on cooldown, like yeah, she can turn invisible for like 5 seconds, but she's 4.4. So I have no idea why Blight is 4.6. Killers need baseline pallet breaking speed buff again. High tier killers are bypassing pallets either way. I just talked about this earlier, but yeah, I completely agree. Word for word, yes. We've reached a point in Dead by Daylight's killer balance where the killer role could seriously use some proper base kit game slowdown. Generator kicking is practically necessary for the lower tier killers to not get absolutely floored by the opposing team, but waste valuable time for them doing so, making it mostly useless anyway. Having something like the current effect of Grim Embrace Corrupt Intervention at base kit would make weaker killers feel like they're actually able to perform at a relatively decent level, and if people are worried about stronger killers making this overpowered, maybe make certain perks like Pain Resonance deactivate the effect to prevent massive slowdown stacking whilst allowing weaker killers to not be forced to dedicate 2 or 3 perk slots to slowdown. Yeah, so I kind of agree with this. Like killers with high mobility like Billy and Blight will always be able to benefit more from generator slowdown perks than M1 killers. I think honestly the best thing they could do, rather than like making like generators like take longer or or like lose more progress is maybe just make them regress a little bit quicker. Right now it takes 4 seconds to undo 1 second of repair progress, so it's a quarter charge per second. If they made that like a third a charge per second, so 0.33 up from 0.25, I think that could help a little bit, but I don't know if I would do any more than that, because buffing gen regression, especially now, is kind of risky. Like, just look at the roster, man. The possibilities of perk sacking is kind of crazy. So yeah, it's more fun to play a flavorful killer build than a strong killer build. So I guess just like what, fun perk builds. I completely agree. I think just sweating all day is fucking boring. So yeah, I agree with this one. Buckle in, this is going to be a long rant. Oh my god, yes it is. I think Dracula is genuinely one of the worst designed killers in the game from a health or power creep perspective. Pixelbush just made a video on this, but it's an opinion I've had since his live release. Vampire form has essentially xenomorph tail that can hit multiple survivors like Pyramid Head Punishment, and without the downside of flame turrets. Bat form moves faster than Spirit's phase, has an almost map-wide lullaby, making it actually decent at stealth, has base kit Strider, and has a teleport. Wolf form has Wesker's dash, as if he had Unicorn Medallion, which is also a top 3 Wesker add-on, without having to grab or slam survivors, has a shorter windup and cooldown on top of being short with a third-person camera like 𝗥𝗏𝗄𝗏. It also has scent orbs that give it info and free haste, similarly to Skull Merchant 2, and has I'm All Ears almost base kit with the Killer Instinct, and has Bloodhound base kit. That's not mentioning the fact that he has Lapis Lazuli being Bamboozle in an add-on, and Medusa Hair, which even though it's been nerfed is still essentially a clown bottle in an add-on. Not even mentioning his other really good add-ons like Traveler's Hat, Clock Tower Gear, Magical Ticket, and Winged Boots. He just has everything and can do everything with almost no downsides. His biggest flaw is existing in the same game as Nurse, Blight, Billy, Kaneki, and Singularity. I like playing him, and facing him doesn't bother me. I just hate his design and what he represents for the future of the game's killer design. Thank you for reading, I appreciate it. Yeah, I appreciate your long essay. Yeah, I think I kind of agree. I think his collection of killer powers doing a lot of stuff better than other killers who have just one kit is a little cringe, but I mean, he, like you said, his biggest flaw is literally just that he exists in the game and he can be compared to other killers in the roster. This game would be vastly improved if 3/4 of the maps were removed and or have map offerings fully disabled. Also, they should nerf the S tiers, Nurse, Blight, etc. so when they're balancing, they don't have to think, okay, this perk is decent and honestly not good enough for most F or B tier killers, but Nurse uses it, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, I completely agree. I mean, I've kind of like jokingly said this, you know, I'm a very sarcastic guy, but I do genuinely think that Autohaven is like just the best and most well-balanced realm in the map pool. So if, you know, as an example, they deleted half the maps in the game, I think it would be better. Legion should down on the 4th hit instead of the 5th on non-deep wound survivors. I disagree. I think the 5-hit system is pretty much fine as is, but I would be open to the idea of having an add-on that did this. Some killers do have a price for faking their power, some don't. Hunters and Pyramid cannot attack after canceling, but Demogorgon can fake his power without penalty? Why? Or it just happens with power themselves. New Freddy, for example, there is no point in dodging his projectile. He doesn't lose distance. Survivors will either slow down or by attack or lose distance trying to dodge. I kind of fumbled the last sentence there, but I get what you're trying to say. As far as Demogorgon, I've brought this up a few times, but like any Demogorgon slander is just immediately shunned by the community. He's literally just a zoning killer. He should probably get some massive buffs, and in the same patch, you know, have his cancel take a little bit longer as well. Joey's mixtape isn't that bad. Chloe. No, Joey's mixtape, it really is that bad. Wraith needs a buff. I wouldn't mind an add-on rework. I think like he has a lot of repeat add-ons. I think he has 2 or 3 speed add-ons, a couple uncloaked speed add-ons, You know, they could probably consolidate some of that stuff into like 1 or 2 effects, and then, you know, freeze up another 6 or 7 add-ons that could do something else. So I think I would approach it from that perspective. Bring back or release Skull Merchant. No. Behavior should add more event add-ons and let the current Blight Serum be usable outside of the Halloween event, since survivors can do so as well. I completely agree with this. The Killer Serum isn't available, but the Survivor one is, so I completely agree. Basically what I'm just trying to say is I agree there should be more event stuff, and the previous event add-ons should be available throughout the whole year. New DBD player who got recommended this video because of the algorithm. Oh, hello there. I've had a lot of fun learning the game, getting used to the killers, survivors, and the loop of the game. It's super fun and addictive, and can say it's definitely new player friendly. I built a couple of builds out of the base game perks and from the free perks from a few I've bought up from iridescent shards and my own money. And honestly say that the game feels alright in the balance department. Killer skill definitely is a huge factor, but the game definitely leans so heavily towards a fast equal good. The only killer I felt like was just too broken was Singularity. Their toolkit seems so busted compared to the Hag or even other teleport or fast reversal killers. Teleporting killers seriously need to be taken to a look at when it comes to balance, speed reductions, and definitely some counterplay options like without perk reworks. Honestly, we'd love to see the devs just add some new perks for survivors and killers that are free so we can have more things to experiment with. I find making builds in the game way more fun than killing every survivor or escaping. I wish the game had more of an emphasis on stealth rather than speed. I totally agree that there should be more perks available in the base game. They tried to do this some time ago with Shattered Hope as like a new killer perk, but they kind of stopped there. I think if there was even like boon perks, maybe some invocations as well on Survivor's side that were made generic and or added to the game that are brand new, as well as on killer side, maybe like at least like 1 regression perk, something to help out killers who are just starting the game and they don't have all the DLCs. I actually do agree with Singularity, although the only thing I would change about him in his current state would just be so that if you stun him with a pallet and overclock, he just recovers really fast from the pallet stun instead of just deleting the pallet. So basically just enduring on crack. That way, just if you don't have an EMP, you can at least do a little bit of something. Hot take. That's the point of this series. Challenges were better when they forced you to use certain characters and perks. Sure, the quest system is incredibly convenient, but as you said yourself, you can do like 10 quests in one match without even knowing what they are. They aren't challenges, they aren't special, there's no incentive to step out of your comfort zone and try something new or unique. Even if they just brought back the dailies for specific killers or gave BP or XP incentives, it would be good. I do agree. I actually think that yes, while the quest system is far superior in terms of actual like casual play, it has lost some of its niche appeal and challenge focus. I do think that if they want, it would be super cool to give killer specific challenges or like long milestone survivor challenges that would require you to use certain killers or certain builds in succession. So as an example, like you have to get 100 like long shots as hunters, and you would unlock like a unique calling card or badge or something like that just to have it featured on your profile. To show that, hey, you took the time to do kind of a cool thing. Maybe as clown, you know, you get direct bottle hits, you know, like, hey, get 1,000 direct bottle hits, sort of like Call of Duty like weapon camo challenges and grinds where it's like get headshots, get long shot, that kind of stuff. You could have stuff like, you know, as Survivor, you know, use chem trap and any means necessary. And you know, like you do some fun stuff, right? That's what I'm trying to say, is do some fun stuff, do some fun genuine challenges to get some cool exclusive rewards. I think save the best for last shouldn't have been nerfed, at least how it has been nerfed. Oh, I don't even have to read the rest of this, but yes, I completely agree, bro. I completely agree. Save the best for last was literally nuked from orbit. It doesn't even work on killers like Deathslinger anymore. Like you just can't use it. If you shoot the obsession, shooting them counts as an attack now, and it will consume a token. So yeah, save the best for last. Genuinely, I think all it needed was to have its percentage reduced from 5% to 4%. That's genuinely all I think needed to happen. Instead, the community was complaining a shit ton, and then behavior panicked and nerfed it way more than when they had to. So my issue is that behavior just doesn't care about low tier killers. Based and true. It took them 3 years to buff Legion, which could have been done in a single patch. Yes, literally yes. Just yes, this is factually true. Some hot takes. There is no reason why firecrackers are not on the blood web outside of events. Patch offerings should be removed. For the love of God, make the Shrine of Secrets only have licensed perks. Who the hell needs to buy a toy perk? And a personal one. I like playing Vecna, but I hate that most survivors ignore using magic items. There should be something forcing them to at least search one chest. I completely agree on the Shrine. I think the Shrine of Secrets needs just like a complete rework. It's really horribly laid out at this point. I mean, there's almost 200 perks in the game and you only get 4 per week. And half the time, like you said, it's like it's a Dwight perk or it's a Mag perk, something that's literally you just play the game for like 2 hours and you get. So yeah, I think it definitely should be revisited at some point. As far as the other ones, I don't think I have a whole lot to really comment on. I wouldn't mind seeing hatch offerings removed, but at the same time, I do understand why they exist. It can kind of reduce some of the RNG elements of the game, some of the padding towards the end. Hottest possible take in the eyes of the community. All right. Hours do not always equal skill, especially the hours counted by Steam, which counts all the time you are in game, not in a match or learning in customs. Sorry to break it to you, but a person with 10,000 hours does not actually have 10,000 hours because at least 3,000 of those are AFK in the menu and waiting for matches to start. Yeah, I mean, similarly to the original ranking system, yeah, like playtime, inadvertently, yes, it kind of does lead to just general skill and time spent playing the game. Like you're just naturally going to get better, but it does not necessarily mean that you're a good player. There's all kinds of people who have like 3,000 or 4,000 hours in the game, and they definitely could play a little bit better. Ghoul isn't strong right now, just considered strong because most survivors all do the same stuff. Hold W and pre-drop. I largely agree. I do think Ghoul has actually been over nerfed. The biggest problem I had with Ghoul obviously was his auto aim. That's been fixed, and they also fixed a lot of his really overpowered add-ons. But now they've also made it so his power goes on cooldown when he breaks pallets. It also has less range. I think at the very least they could revert the range nerf, because that in particular feels really clunky. Thought I'd ask a few friends for their DBD hot takes, and this is what they gave me so far. Indoor maps are wildly unbalanced and should be removed. The killer you play isn't bad, you as the player are bad. Killer's a lot easier than Survivor. 𝗥ощ𝗵𝗂𝗏 is god-awful and the most boring type of killer to play against. Tunneling and slugging are tactical plays and shouldn't be punished as heavily as they are. Oh, there's a lot of bullshit in this that I have to unpack. Indoor maps are wildly unbalanced, should be removed. I don't think anyone would really disagree with this. I mean, no one wants to get 4 RPDs in a row or 2 Hawkins in a row. Like, yeah, they're kind of interesting. I do think, you know, they spice up the game at times, but I will never enjoy loading in on Hawkins because it's just like 30 unsafe pallets that if you don't break, they can actually chain together. So yeah, that's not really interesting. Same with Gideon's. It's just like it's the same thing but opposite, where it's just a bunch of safe pallets. And then maps like Larry's and RPD have really good window spawns. So yeah, that can be a bit of a pain in the ass, but I think that they all have their own place in the game, but they should definitely be revisited and given a balanced pass. Second point, okay, killer you play isn't bad, you as the player are bad. This is objectively false. I don't think I have to really go into too much detail. It just sounds like one of your friends just has never played killer. Obviously, same player on the same map with the same build. A trapper is going to obviously perform worse than a nurse or a blight. That's literally just how it works. Killer's a lot easier than Survivor. I agree. If you were talking about solo queue, if we're talking about Survive with friends, then Survive with friends is easier. 𝗥ощ𝗵𝗂𝗏 is god-awful, most boring type of killer to play against. I also actually agree with this one. I don't know why people think it's like it's so funny. Like, he just hits you, he hides around a corner and waits for you to come back. There's literally no gameplay. You're not being chased. You're just getting hit, running to a pallet so he can't hit you again. You heal, You then run back to your gen, he comes back and he hits you, and you have to do the whole thing over and over again. And eventually it's a 3 gen, and eventually he runs out of kicks, you pop the gen and you escape. It's a 40-minute match every single time. There's no reason you shouldn't 4 out 𝗥𝗴𝗂𝗏𝗏. There's literally zero reason. It's the moment you spawn in, even on the best setup, he's lost, but it's gonna be the most dragged out match of all time. Tunneling and slugging are tactical plays and shouldn't be punished as heavily as they are. Yeah, I mean, yes, that's just true. Hot take, add-on design should be far stronger and more transformative. They almost had this with pre-nerf Blight add-ons, the only problem being that Blight's base kit is too strong, but instead of nerfing Blight's base kit, they turned his add-ons into the same boring stat increase every other killer has. I want add-ons that give new spells to 𝗥𝗏, more that completely change how our killer is played, giving them essentially a new power. I don't want fucking increases cooldown of Unga Bunga by 10%. Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, I think the stat increases are fine in moderation. Limit it to like maybe, you know, 6 or 7 add-ons of the 20 add-ons that are just like, yeah, your cooldown comes back a little quicker, your power lasts a tad longer, like that's fine. But if all the add-ons are just the same shit, and especially for like some of the older killers, who, you know, like Wraith, where he has 3 add-ons to just do the same exact thing, Trapper as well, despite his rework, Hillbilly also has this as well, and which really sucks because both Hillbilly and Blight, when they got changed, they took away their fun add-ons, the ones that had kind of like gimmicky ideas and stuff, and they just replaced it with like move speed and power duration and stuff like that, and that's just like, that's just a bruh moment. Like like why, man? Boons should be more powerful and stronger in game like old Circle of Healing, but should break and deactivate once the killer breaks it. I actually disagree. I don't think like totems or the boons should deactivate necessarily, but I do think that boons should almost like complement each other, so that instead of just always bringing Circle of Healing, you'll say, okay, I'm gonna bring Circle of Healing, or I'm gonna bring Shadow Step, because it will buff a different boon perk. Like maybe you have a passive on each boon perk that has its own effects. So for example, Shadow Step has a slightly like bigger range, so it makes it so that it makes all boon totem perks have 4 extra meters of range. Maybe Dark Theory buffs all the other ones, so if they have an effect that lingers, it lingers for like an additional 4 seconds, that kind of thing. So there's more of a mix and match potential, I think. I've had the same hot take for a while. The hatch is an awful mechanic, like the entire thing. Even just looking at it on paper, it's a random free escape for a player. It also encourages the worst playstyles on both sides. Killers to slug for 4Ks and survivors to hiding to do nothing once 2 are dead. Yeah, it has its moments, of course, of being frustrating, but I do ultimately think the hatch is like, it's good for the game. It has lots of iconic moments attached to it. But as you mentioned, there is some grievances that could definitely be addressed at some point. Obviously, slugging for the 4K, just, it's fucking boring. Like, you down the last guy, instead of hooking him, you leave him on the ground to look for the other dude. Like, okay, if someone runs in front of you after you've downed that person, there's like, yeah, that makes sense. But to down them and then spend the next 10 minutes looking for the other guy, like, just like, move on, man. It's so boring. So I do agree from that perspective. I, of course, have been playing Dead by Daylight for an abnormally long time. I should seek professional help about it, but the hatch used to work very differently back in the day, where you had to at least repair 2 generators in order for hatch to spawn. So if your team just threw and you're at 5 gens, the hatch did not spawn, which meant that basically you lost, but the killer also lost, because now you're just gonna hide the whole game and the killer can't do anything to find you. So yeah, that was pretty rough. This will be a long one. Hope it makes into your next video. Lucky you. I think the Twins nerf to Victor's pounce from 2.7 seconds to 3.2 seconds, and the time it takes for him to return to you when you crushed from 15 seconds to 20 seconds was unnecessary. Bad survivors who don't kick Victor will get stumped by both pre and post nerf Twins. Yeah, okay. I think I can see where this is going. Yeah, I think I agree, honestly. It just feels like worse. It feels worse and doesn't really do anything. It's like how Legion can't see blood pools in Frenzy because they don't want you to like go after the person you just hit. but you just hit them and they're screaming their fucking head off, so you're obviously gonna know where they are. I can agree with this. It just artificially limits the killer rather than actually giving them like more counterplay or more tangible nerf. Old barbecue and chili blood point stacks should become base kit for all killers to aid in blood point grinding and discourage tunneling. Yes, if they also do this for Survivor. I think you have to do both at the same time. They have already kind of done that in the past, of course, by increasing score events and then also just the number of blood points you can get in each match. And nowadays we have like a double blood point event almost every single week, so I don't think blood points are really that big of a problem, at least during events. In normal amounts, they can be kind of stingy at times, though. I think pigs should be able to vault pallets with their dash, just like 𝗥𝗏𝗄𝗏 does. Yo, wait, that could that could actually be kind of fire. Right? Maybe not like 𝗥𝗏𝗄𝗏, but more like 𝗥𝗏𝗏𝗃 maybe, or like 𝗥𝗏𝗄𝗏𝗏, where it like it ends your power, but then you go through like a short cooldown. That could be kind of interesting. Maybe with an add-on. You know, if you hit a drop pallet in your dash or over a window, that would be cool. I don't know. Is this guy cooking? You guys let me know. Is this guy cooking? Said this once in the community post and I'll say it again here. What the fuck is even Ghost's power? Undetectable and exposed. Any killer can run those as perks and add-ons and automatically become a better Ghostface. Yeah, I mean, as we know, a lot of the older killers in the game, they tend to have powers that are literally just a combination of perks that either existed before or became perks down the line. Like Myers is a perfect example. He has longer lunge, exposed, and vault speed. That's literally his entire power. He vaults 25% faster. He has a 0.1 second longer lunge. Wow. And everyone's exposed for a whole minute. That's literally his entire kit. And then the killer like Ghostface is just undetectable plus exposed. You do mention the drop leg add-on. I think it's kind of interesting what they did in 2v8 where they just made him just move 10% faster in his shroud. Maybe that's something they could actually do for Ghostface to make him better, because every time they've buffed Ghostface, it doesn't do anything. Like they reduce your power recharge and like the time to stock every time, and it just doesn't matter, because either the add-ons is still there and you need the other part of it, or the other add-ons are just so bad that you just don't care about using them. So I feel like Ghostface, he needs probably an add-on pass and then also like a bit of a boost to his base kit in a way that's actually useful, not just like, oh, you can get your power back in 10 seconds now, before it was 12. Like it's like, who cares, man? I am so sick of the add-on balancing changes 𝗕𝗏𝗄𝗏 seems obsessed with doing, that are like, we saw that this killer only has 2 good add-ons, so we made them have base kit. The perfect example here is Demogorgon. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of killers like Demogorgon, Dredge, Ghostface. We just talked about Ghostface and how he has a bunch of add-ons that do nothing, and they keep making his recharge base kit. It's like, that's not gonna help him. That's not gonna make him any better. It was another killer recently that they Legion had his duration and speed base kit. The one thing that is nice is occasionally, like with Legion as an example, as well as Dredge, I'll focus on Dredge for this one. They'll make the add-ons base kit, like Malthinker's Skull and Hattie's Calendar, and the teleport, I think it's called Boat Key is the add-on. They'll make those add-ons base kit, and then they'll actually like keep the add-on like largely the same. So it's just a flat buff. So as an example, the locker exiting speed went from 3 seconds to 2.25 with Hattie's Calendar. Now I think by default it is 2.25, and they've basically kept the add-on more or less the same, where it's, instead of 0.25 like you would expect to get that value down, it's actually 0.4. So you get like a 1.85 second like locker exit, which was faster than you could ever do it before. So there is situations where they actually do just straight up buff the killer. Again, like with Legion, where they made the ruler add-on base kit, so instead of a 20-second power recharge, it's 15, but then they didn't nerf the add-on, so you can still use the add-on and it gets even lower down to 10 seconds, so that like stuff like that is actually like a good thing to do. But like nerfing like half the add-on and making the other half base kit sometimes doesn't work out very well. Like with Demogorgon or like Barb's glasses, like you're still going to use the add-on because there's literally nothing else that you can use. So you may as well just get the full value out of the old add-on. So yeah, I do kind of agree. Survivors should be more unique. They are literally skins. Every survivor should have an innate ability. Oh boy. I have something to say about this. A perk made base kit doesn't matter. I have no motivation of leveling multiple survivors because everyone does the same thing David King does. Besides the perk, obviously, there must be something unique to every one of them. I think the thing that's unique to every one of them is just their visual appearance. They're just skins, man. They're just skins. There's been other games that have tried like unique character abilities and it always ends in everyone just wanting to play the same three games. Play the same three. I don't know how many of you played RE Resistance, but I loved that game when it came out, and I would always like put my mouse in the loading screen at the exact spot needed to select either January or Jill. Every single time I knew the exact like pixel to line up my mouse so that I could always be the first one to pick it. So that would probably be what would happen in Dead by Daylight if they did that, unless they wanted to allow stacking, but then that gets kind of risky. It's too late for behavior at this point to unique survivor abilities. At least in 1v4, they could probably start fresh in a custom mode or something in like a limited time event, but definitely won't make it into the regular 1v4 mode. Julie's mixtape should be base kit. No. Trapper isn't as bad as people say he is. Sure, he sucks at his bottom 5, but he can have a huge comeback potential. He is my son. Yeah, I mean, this goes for literally every killer. I mean, there's been people who say Legion's not bad, just watch Tat play. He gets 4Ks like almost every game. It's like, well, yeah. Like, I'm just good at killer. Doesn't mean the killer's good, you know? There's people who play Wraith or Trapper or even Skull Merchant and they'll get 4 kills. Again, it doesn't mean that they're good. It just means they kind of get, you know, a good match or they're just naturally good at the game. Even killers like Myers, like they have a snowball ability, you know, like he can expose everyone and he can theoretically use like Infectious Fright to chain downs. So there is potential there. I would say every killer is viable with an asterisk where yes, it is possible to win with every single killer in the game, but that does not necessarily mean that they're like actually good. So, yeah. The Legion should be able to down a survivor in their frenzy when one survivor is dead, which means 3 frenzy stabs is 1 frenzy down. I mean, they can already get a frenzy down if someone is dead, it just gets harder, but I do agree that this could probably be looked into a little bit just to give them a little bit more lethality. I think this is pretty agreeable. I'll say it again because it kind of is my only real hot take, I feel. I prefer the old look of Borgo, oh my god, 𝗥𝗏𝗄𝗃, a lot more than the current one. Don't get me wrong, the skybox looks stellar and fits the map, but the orange theme felt more unique and always gave me the feeling the place was just burnt to the ground not too long ago. It felt like the place was still warm, but not in a comforting way. I am also pretty convinced that a lot of people who complained about the map being difficult with scratch marks were PC players who overdid their filter settings. I actually do agree, I prefer the old look of Borgo. They did fix Borgo right before they reworked it. They changed the lighting ever so slightly, and that looked pretty good to me. They even removed the film grain, which they unfortunately brought back with the rework of Borgo. So not only is the map darker than it was before, but now there's forced film grain if you play on high or ultra settings, and that just looks absolutely terrible. So yeah, actually, I agree. Legion is fine being weak, aside from maybe needing a few buffs. I wouldn't be upset if they were left in their current state. In my limited experience, Legion, at least in my opinion, works well as a character that's beginner friendly and easy to play like Wraith or Myers. Buffing them too much would result in survivors complaining about them even more. I do agree, I do actually agree, and I think most Legion players would agree that they don't necessarily want Legion to be super strong, they just want him to be on par with like the rest of the roster, really. That's all we're asking for. I'm gonna say it again, half the perks they give aura reading should be removed or changed. Some perks have insane effects that aura reading is thrown on top of, Grim Embrace for example. I do agree actually, I think that most perks in the game that have aura reading on them as like a side thing should be looked into, because aura reading is something that used to be very special. I mean, when the game first came out, there was no aura reading. It was just, you had to use whispers, and then they had nurses calling, and then it felt like with every single chapter released, there was just new perks that would show auras for both survivor and killer. I think it has been power crept quite a bit. Information is extremely strong in Dead by Daylight. In some way, it's even better than chase perks, and is comparable to Gen slowdown, because knowing where people are and being able to capitalize on that is often more important than actually just chasing them down and outright. So yeah, I do agree. Okay, here's my pretty hot take. Hillbilly's overheat mechanic should come back. Oh god, I think this guy's gonna get pinned to a wall. Not exactly to how it was, but as a cooldown to the overdrive system, which rewards Hillbilly for misusing his chainsaw. Have the overdrive act as a final Hail Mary before being punished, kind of like Trickster's main event. I wouldn't be opposed to it, but at the same time, I feel like Hillbilly is largely fine right now. Like, other than like maybe having a couple of his add-ons be a little insane, I think the rest of his kit's largely fine. He's a pretty skill-based killer. He's hard to pick up and play. Like, you have to actually learn how to curve and stuff. So I don't know, guys. Is this guy cooking? People who think map offerings are OP lack skill. Noobs who think an offering is an insta-win button. Even though there is no map in DBD history that has a 100% or anywhere close to that win rate for one side. The idea that they're overpowered is a mental scapegoat for people to blame their loss on something else other than their own gameplay. Yeah, I mean, it is true that it's not like an automatic win button, but you can't really argue that someone playing bad in preschool as Survivor is going to have a significantly easier time than if it was, you know, just a complete random map, because you can create a build specifically for that map. Same goes for Killer. If you are playing Hillbilly, you probably want an outdoor map that's easy to get around. That way you don't get, you know, stuck on a million walls and obstructions. So while yes, it's not necessarily a win button, it also is definitely tilting the match in your favor. PTP Ghostface's theme was far superior. The live one continues to be a travesty. I think that is a pretty wild one, to be honest. The washing machine, oh no, I can't listen to it for more than like 2 seconds. It's like the same 4 synths or whatever, just constantly repeated every 2 seconds. That shit's loud. Even though it was Survivor sided, I miss old Haddonfield. I kind of wish it was a variant, even though they just got rid of the map variety. Yeah, you know what, I actually do agree. As insane as that sounds, I so very much miss the old layout of Haddonfield. Not so much the infinite hedges and fences, but just the layout of the map, the way it was structured, even the vibe. I think old Haddonfield with like new lighting and textures would look absolutely amazing. It probably wouldn't play necessarily the greatest, but I do genuinely really miss the old Haddonfield, so I can kind of see where you're coming from. Deathslinger is actually worse than several M1 killers. Oh, I don't know, man. He has a gun. he has a gun. He can reel you in. He even has passive zoning. Like, as long as you're reloaded, you don't even have to aim, and they're gonna be looking at you because they're expecting you to aim and shoot. So I feel like he definitely has an edge over the standard M1 killer, but I wouldn't rank him particularly high on a tier list, because it's not like Huntress where he can snowball. He literally has one shot, and if he misses or succeeds, he has to spend time reloading. So yeah, I think I'm gonna have to disagree. Anti-camp needs to go. If a killer is camping someone, they are throwing the game. It's easy for 3 survivors to go on gens while the killer looks into survivor's soul on hook. Yeah, I mean, I do understand this sentiment. I mean, anti-camp largely doesn't function unless you're being face camped. And as we know, the best thing to do if you are in a match where your teammate is getting face camped, it's just to hop on generators, and then you get 3 escapes and the killer gets 1 kill. The thing with the anti-camp, I believe what they were going for is they just want to give more agency to the guy on the hook. So instead of just having to wait there for 2 minutes, you can choose to unhook yourself, and maybe you'll make it to a pallet or a window or something. So I don't think it should necessarily go, but I do think it should get some kind of an update to make it more interesting overall. I think Skull Merchant 2 was fine. I largely agree. I think the second iteration of Skull Merchant that we had with the 2 scan lines was pretty much fine. My only issue I had was the stackable haste, and rather than fixing that behavior, decided to just completely nuke her from orbit. So yeah, I genuinely don't understand why people were complaining about that version of Skull Merchant. She was weaker than Clown, who but had to work like twice as hard to get the same value. It was very bizarre. Buff knight. I haven't heard someone ask for a knight buff in forever. I don't even know where you would start with this. Is it his speed? Is it the chase time? Like what specifically about knight are you talking about here? Do you guys think that knight's in an okay spot? I feel like most of his add-ons are fine as well. I'm not sure. How would you even buff knight? Original Freddy, not the previous one, but the OG one. Okay, so 1.0. Would be absolutely fine with today's perks and gen times, especially with Miss Skill checks being as damaging as they are now. He wouldn't be high tier, but the 50% gen speed regression to sleeping survivors made facing him a nightmare. As honestly, I like the current Freddy, though the 3.0 version that we have, because it borrowed a lot of aspects of the 1.0 Freddy that I definitely missed. Like being able to manually trigger sleep states, and you can even mimic his original power using red paintbrush. I don't think OG Freddy would actually work very well in current Dead by Daylight. Not being able to hit someone for 7 seconds while they're falling asleep was really painful. The one decent thing was his old add-ons like Class Photo and Pill Bottle. Those add-ons were goated. If you know, you know. But yeah, I don't think old Freddy would have worked in current DBD. If you want to hang out in exit gates for X number of seconds, the exit should block. And if you want to BM, you should gotta do it outside the exit gates. I think you answered the problem to your own solution. Is you could just do it outside the exit gates, and then it wouldn't block. I don't think this really solves anything. Larry's Memorial Institute is not a killer-sided map. I think people are traumatized by the once in a blue moon Silent Bell Wraith, Scratch Mirror Myers, Comp Ghostface, and P100 on Rio. Outside of those very specific matches, I think survivors truly underestimate just how much they win on Larry's. For one, the map is huge and it's only big map in the game, where traversing it with a mobility killer is just as bad as traversing it with an M1 killer. Blight, Hillbilly Kaneki, and Wesker are almost unplayable on this map with awful collision, obstacles, and traversal. Ultimately, Larry's has very safe pallets, one of the strongest main setups in the game with good god pallets and not a single bad filler. Not to mention the 30 plus vaults in the map, some of them being super safe windows. It's incredibly easy to stealth as well with amazing exit gates you can't 50-50. Larry's is unbearable for M1 and M2 based killers, especially projectile killers where you can make a turn and break line of sight instantly. Killer on Larry's is miserable. I completely agree. As much as I love Larry's as killer, I actually love it even more as Survivor. Larry's is one of my favorite maps in the game. That always like turns some heads. People are like, why do you love Larry's? It's like, bro, it's because it's fucking easy. You don't even have to bring like a looping build. Like if you go to like that main room with all the TVs, there's at least 2 windows, like 3 or 4 pallets nearby. It's very easy to play on. And then you have the library as well. And then that one big bathroom loop. You know which one I'm talking about. The one with the zero mind game, where the only killer that gets a hit there is a huntress or a nurse. So yeah, that I do agree Larry's is definitely not a killer sided map, but I actually will say it's a fun map. But maybe I'm just a little bit crazy. Behavior needs to have the guts to make setup killers again. We have like 3 of them, but 500 dash killers. We have enough funny man go fast. Like, yeah, I mean, I feel like this is something that's starting to be echoed a little bit, is like they kind of have found a mix of power dynamics that just work, and it's very safe, where they just, yeah, you run fast, you can teleport, or you can hit someone over like a pallet and people will eat it up. But I have been wanting them to do another trap setting killer for a while. We only have, I think, really 2 in the game. That's Trapper and Hag. I would count Skull Merchant, but she's being reworked rather considerably to no longer really be viable the trap playstyle. I still think a killer that could like put barbed wire nets on the floor or something would be interesting, or like on pallets and stuff. I don't know. Hey, add Brutus from Mob of the Dead to DVD. Maybe that would work. LOL. And ladies and gentlemen, that is once again a wrap. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, leave a like and subscribe, and make sure to leave your hot take about Dead by Daylight down below. It could be literally anything in the game. It could be something that you have agreements with, or it could be your own personal opinion about how maybe, just maybe, you think the artist is actually hotter than the huntress. Thanks for watching, guys. See ya.